We begin with breaking news. An actor from the hit show Glee has been found dead.
I just always felt like there was something that he was wrestling with.
When Cory died, the show died with him.
Heart attacks, suicides, overdoses. What is the Glee curse, and how has it killed 8 people from the show so far?
Grief goes with you every day.
The Glee curse refers to the mysterious and suspicious deaths surrounding the crew and cast of the hit TV show. Starting in 2006, the musical series launched the careers of its 10 main actors, forming a unique bond between them.
We're all really close and, pretty much like family, and nobody knows anything about that.
However, whilst all of them have reached fame, their lives were far from perfect. Cory Monteith, who played Finn, had a troubled adolescence, battling with substance abuse since he was 13. He had gone to rehab at 19, but now that Glee was a success, he had to find a way to cope with his addiction.
He started telling me, he's like, it's really hard to figure out how to be famous.
The actor battled drug abuse throughout the show, constantly trying to find a way to keep sober.
He said he was at a party and he hadn't been drinking and he wanted to have a drink, but he knew he shouldn't.
In March 2013, Cory received an intervention from the show's creator, Ryan Murphy, and other members of the Glee cast and crew. Together, they urged the actor to seek help for his abuse. This was a wake-up call for him. Cory ended up agreeing to join a rehab center, which led to him being written out of the final 2 episodes of the show's 4th season.
It was voluntary. This wasn't a court-ordered rehab.
Cory finished the program in just 1 month, ready to return to his job.
It got to show the world who he really is.
Everyone believed Cory had quit drugs for good, but sadly, the actor was still taking them. On July 13th, 2013, Cory was staying at the Fairmont Pacific Rim in Vancouver, Canada. He had booked the room for a week, but after he failed to check out, the hotel staff became worried. At noon, a cleaning staff member went to his room. The employee found Cory in fetal position on the floor. Immediately, the hotel called emergency services, but when they arrived, they confirmed the actor had died. He was just 31 years old.
The cause of death wasn't immediately apparent, and that there were no signs of foul play.
An autopsy revealed the actor had consumed alcohol and heroin. Later on, they also found codeine and morphine in his system. The news of his death shocked everyone from the crew and cast, as they all believed the actor was completely sober.
I was out at a bar in New York, and we thought it was a joke. And then when I started to see other people were reporting about it, I was a shock. We didn't know.
This news was completely devastating for his ex-girlfriend and fellow Glee actress, Lea Michele, who was also unaware that Cory was still taking drugs.
For all of you out there who loved and admired Cory as much as I did, I promise that with your love, we're gonna get through this together.
The production of season 5 of Glee was postponed by a few weeks. Cory's body was cremated and his ashes were spread across some of his favorite places in Vancouver.
I said, we have to go back to work. We have to. They're my family.
Glee ended in 2015 after 6 seasons. It won over 70 awards, including 6 Emmys. The show became emblematic of the era, with fans recreating many of the show's musical numbers on YouTube. However, even if the show was no longer in production, the curse continued, this time suffering a loss that deeply hurt the fans of the show. Mark Salling had become a fan favorite through his role as Tough Guy Puck, but while he was adored by many, he had a terrible secret that he wanted to keep away from the public eye.
Let me ask you something. Where do you think you'll be in the year 2030? In jail or dead or both.
The actor had a dark past of abuse and violence. Back in 2013, he was accused by his then-girlfriend of sexual battery after she claimed she had asked him to use a condom during intercourse, but he had refused to do.
She then demanded to know whether he had proof that he didn't have any STDs, which she claims prompted Salling to grab and push her to the ground.
But that wasn't the most sinister aspect of Mark's life.
I just always felt like there was something that he was wrestling with.
Nevertheless, in December 2015, this terrible secret finally came to light.
An anonymous ex-girlfriend alleged that he possessed a massive trove of child pornography.
The police quickly rushed to his home, ready to arrest him, but the star refused to let them in.
First of all, Mark Salling wouldn't answer the door. They had to use a battering ram to get into his place.
Once inside, Mark did everything in his power to ensure the authorities didn't get his computer.
When asked to hand over his password to some of his devices, he refused to do it.
The actor was arrested, although he was later released on a $20,000 bail. The investigation continued, unraveling a profoundly disturbing network that Mark was part of. Inside his computer, they found out he had downloaded over 50,000 images of child pornography in a 9-month period.
Investigators were able to find hundreds of images, including girls as young as 10 years old.
A few months later, he was charged with receiving and possessing child pornography. As a result, he was fired from the upcoming film he was going to star in.
You can't bounce back from that, and I think he knew that.
The actor was sentenced to 4 to 7 years in jail. Additionally, he had to register as a sex offender and enter a treatment program. Everyone was shocked upon hearing this news, and Mark was certain that his career was over.
He apparently, it seems like, was at least attempting to take his life.
Mark's flatmate then found him bleeding out shortly after cutting his wrists.
Apparently he was screaming for an ambulance, so Whatever he did, he had second thoughts about because he called 911.
The flatmate called an ambulance, and it arrived just in time to save the actor's life.
Mark was taken to the hospital. He was put on a psych hold.
Nevertheless, Mark was still committed to ending his life. On January 30th, 2018, the star hung himself, and his body was found near a riverbed in Los Angeles. His death was ruled as a suicide. After this, the Glee cast was hit with another tragedy, the loss of Naya Rivera, a promising young actress who, after the show, was focused on raising her child.
You know, I'm a mom now, and you know what I love more than acting is being Josie's mom.
On July 8th, 2020, Naya Rivera, known as Santana Lopez in Glee, took her 4-year-old son Josie on a rented boat to Lake Piru in what was supposed to be a fun way to enjoy nature.
It was a beautiful morning. I missed 2 of her FaceTime calls, and I called her back, and I said, Naya, where are you? She's like, me and Josie were gonna go to the lake.
Sadly, both the mother and the child disappeared shortly after. Police began searching for them. At around 5 p.m., they found Josie, alone and asleep on the boat with his life jacket on.
He told us, he said, don't worry, we have Josie, but your daughter's missing.
A further investigation discovered that both Naya and her son were in the water when they were hit by a rip current. She helped her child to swim towards the boat, but when they arrived there, she faced an incredibly difficult decision.
She used whatever strength she had to get her little boy back on, but apparently was too weak to save herself.
The police asked Josie for any questions about what happened to his mother next.
He told investigators that he looked back and saw her disappear under the surface of the water.
5 days later, they found Naya's body. But these stars were not the only tragedy that hit the CW show. Just a few months after Cory Monteith died, another member of the Glee family was found dead. On September 14th, 2013, assistant director Jim Fuller died. The crew member had worked on TV for over 2 decades in shows such as Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Monk, and Weeds. He was found dead and asleep after suffering a heart attack during the night. He was just 41 years old. Another man named Paul, who was in charge of props, died of the same condition. Shortly after, there was yet another shocking death. Nancy Motes had been a production assistant in the show for the last few seasons. Her passion for film and TV was something common in her family, being the half-sister of Julia Roberts. Nevertheless, while Nancy worked in one of the most successful shows at the time, she wasn't happy. On February 23rd, 2014, Nancy was found dead in the bathtub after suffering an overdose. Prescription and non-prescription drugs were found at her side. Nancy's death was not an accident, but rather a suicide. In a 5-page suicide note, the production assistant directly blamed Julia Roberts for allegedly bullying her about her weight and causing her deep depression. According to her fiancé, the Hollywood star allegedly intimidated Nancy and deliberately kept her away from their sick mother in her final years. Then there was Matthew Morrison's stand-in, Mark Watson, who passed due to a car fire. Matthew Morrison wrote him a heartfelt message on Instagram. Around this time, an unnamed rigger of the show also died after committing suicide. In just about 2 years, 6 people who had worked on the show had died in strange circumstances. While curses might not exist in the real world, it is undeniable that Glee has suffered an immense amount of tragedy. In 2023, the documentary The Price of Glee promised to unveil the secrets of this alleged curse. The show faced public scrutiny, especially from the actors of the show who didn't want to have the deaths of their colleagues exploited.
I think it's a little bit of like just trying to get people to watch something.